We will just kind of talk slowly, waiting for there's Chris. He's in there by audio. Oh, and video. You made it home.
Finally, running.
Well, we are just opening it up, and I'm going to open up the meeting at 6:32. And this is for the City of Sandy Planning Commission meeting. It is Monday, October 25th, 2021. And this meeting is being held via Zoom. We'll start with a roll call.
Commissioner Carlton,
Present.
Commissioner Lasowski,
Here.
Commissioner McLean Wenzel is excused. Commissioner Lee,
Here.
Commissioner Hook,
Here.
Commissioner Mayton,
Present.
and Chairman Crosby.
Here.
And Council Liaison Rich Sheldon is also on the line.
Good evening.
Hi, Rich. Thank you. All right, we had in our packet the minutes from our last meeting, September 27, 2021. Any additions, corrections, changes, or anything that needs to be noted before we approve them? Nothing heard. We'll take a motion then.
I move we pass the minutes from the last meeting.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept the minutes for September 27, 2021. All in favor, show a thumbs up. I see all those thumbs. Thank you very much. Do we have any from the public here, Kelly, tonight?
We do have two people in attendance.
Okay, well, I will go ahead and say that we now have, this is the time on all of our meetings when we give opportunity for general requests from the floor. If you're here in the meeting and you want to speak to the commission on an item that is not on tonight's agenda, now is the time to do it. And if you are with us on Zoom, you just click the raise hand icon or button and then wait to be recognized. If you are on the telephone, dial *9, and that will effectively raise your hand and then wait to be recognized. So are there any just general comments to the commission tonight?
I do not see any hands raised. Oh, I do see one raised. Richard Sheen, or sorry if I mispronounce it. It's SCHNEE, Schnee. I just wanted to remind the two people that have joined us tonight that if the comments are on the Bornstedt Views, we'd like to hear them, but those comments will have to wait to the January 24th meeting. So I'm going to let the person speak now. Okay.
He needs to unmute.
Yeah, I've asked him to unmute. He has to click the button to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. I'm here because my wife and I live up against the Bornstedt property that's going to be wanting to be developed. I don't know where we're at with that as far as the owner putting in for permits to do anything, or has it been approved? We're just here to find out where we're at with that, or where you're at with that.
Okay, well, we can answer that quickly. It was on tonight's agenda, but then it was pulled by the applicant. And the new hearing date is January 24, 2022. So you're going to have to wait until then, and we invite you to be at that meeting for your comments. You can also submit written comments before that time.
Okay, all right. Will we get another letter in the mail for an updated meeting?
Yeah, you certainly will from the planning division here with the city of Sandy. Chris, do you want to add anything to that just for this gentleman's benefit or anybody else that might watch the video later on?
I don't think so. I think the applicant decided they weren't ready for the planning commission to consider the application yet. There was more information they wanted to put in the record or things they wanted to address. So they asked the city if we could postpone this hearing. We did, but the next available date is January 24. So we'll come back to Bornstedt Views on the 24th of January.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Somebody else did just join us, so I don't know if you want to just ask for comments one more time.
Sure. For those that just joined or will join quickly or shortly here, we're now just giving opportunity for just general citizen comment communications to the Planning Commission on items that are not on tonight's agenda. And in case you didn't just hear, the Bornstedt Views Subdivision, which was on tonight's agenda, has been removed by the applicant. And the new hearing date is January 24, 2022. So we will not be looking at that proposal tonight. So if you have a comment, please give us your name and we're ready to listen.
Okay, I do not see any other hands raised.
Okay. Well, we'll move on to Kelly's director's report that was in our packet. Do you have anything to add or does anybody have any questions?
I do have a few things to kind of update since I published this on the 15th of October. And since then, we've had some changes to the upcoming meeting schedule. So as you're all aware, the Bornstedt Views isn't being heard tonight. We did put information about that on the city website and on our Facebook account as well. The problem is we just got notice of it Thursday afternoon, so we didn't have time to send out notice, because what we typically would do would send out a notice to everybody in that neighborhood, letting them know that it's not being held tonight. But we just didn't have time to do that. We will be sending out another round of noticing for that, and also legal notice in the newspaper. And the hearing date will be January 24th. I also sent an email, I think it was last week, that the December 13th Planning Commission date, most likely, it will still be a meeting that date at 6 o'clock. And it will most likely be a work session on the TSP and the bypass feasibility study. And so at that meeting, I think the city recorder, Jeff Aprati, will be sending out an invite to all planning commissioners to come and attend a city council work session. And at that meeting, it would be very important if you're interested in future road projects in the city of Sandy, because that will be a pretty instrumental meeting for the council and the planning commission to kind of weigh in and prioritize different road projects over the next 20 years. So I don't think that will be the only opportunity, but that will be kind of the main opportunity to make comments over or about transportation project priorities over the next 20 years related to the TSP. And then at that meeting, we're going to try to have an update on the bypass feasibility report. We're finalizing that report, and I'm hoping to get it out to the Planning Commission and City Council in the next week or two. So hopefully by December 13th, you'll have had at least a month to look at that report and be able to come to that meeting with some questions if you have any. I did put some recent decisions of note on here as well. Some additional applications of note and updates regarding those. And then I did have a section on here of other items of note related to the comp plan, which we're finishing up the scope and contract details. We're hoping to bring that to the city council here in about 2.5 to 3 weeks. The bypass feasibility study, as I just gave you an update on that. The TSP update, we're trying to have that finished, I believe, by like February or March of 2022. So that's why the December date's pretty crucial, because the document, I think, will be in at least like 90% draft form by that meeting. And then we'll have to work on some stuff based on the feedback we receive from the planning commission, the city council, and the public at large. And then we also hired a contracted building inspector to help our building official out. His name is Johnny Bollendroff. He's actually a Sandy resident and has been for a number of years. He was previously a building official in Tillamook County and also a building inspector in several jurisdictions as well. And so he's just a part-time contracted. He's basically doing plan review for the most part, but he also is kind of the backup person to Terry for doing in-field inspections. And like Terry, we're very lucky. He has a lot of different qualifications and certs. A lot of times in the building world, you get an inspector or an official that has like certifications in building or mechanical or electrical or plumbing, or maybe 2 of them. Terry has them in 3, and so does Johnny. So it's very unusual actually to find people that have 3 different certifications in those different 4 major categories, but we have 2 people right now, so very fortunate. And then I did want to give you guys one little other quick update that I didn't include on this. I'm exploring possibilities with the city manager and our attorney's office on making additional code edits related to limited land use and clear and objective, and also different criterion for different land use applications. And it's not that I believe our code is written poorly right now or that there's that many vulnerabilities, I don't think, but we do want to make sure that wherever there is vulnerabilities in the code, we can solidify those and change the code. So I'm going to be exploring that over the next month or 2 with our attorney's office and city manager, and hopefully sending out probably an RFP or an RFQ in the future to get some code assistance with that. And then the final thing that I will add, I have a lot of updates for you. We're also going to be working on revisions to the code related to Senate Bill 458, and Emily's going to be kind of leading that charge. It's the second or the follow-up to House Bill 2001. This is where it allows any lot that has a duplex to then be divided into 2 lots of record. So it most likely will come with some controversy. However, we're being mandated to do it by June of 2022. And if we don't adopt anything by that date, then the state's code goes into effect and it overrides ours for that specific provision. So we'll be bringing more to you on that, maybe even a little work session to discuss the details. And Emily and I are going to just start digging into that probably in November or December or so. With that, that's my update.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I add something to that? Kelly caught my attention. There's nothing wrong with your code. I think it's fine. The reality is there's been a sea change in state law in the last 4 years, state land use law, starting with Senate Bill 1051 in 2017, and then House Bill 2001 in 2019, and now you get Senate Bill 458, Senate Bill 8, House Bill 2006. There's any jurisdiction trying to keep up with all that is going to just tax its planning commission. You guys are going to see code change after code change after code change because state law is changing so much and so fast. So that's why you make the big money, right?
Well, thank you.
2 times 0 is still 0.
All right. We'll just move into our planning commission discussion. If there's any questions or comments that any of you have before we move to the interview panel thing that we do have to do.
I just have one thing, and I did have an email exchange with Kelly on it. First of all, we're going to go into this thing on this probably pretty quick on appointing someone to be on the interview committee. There's only 3 choices. I appreciate Emily, attaching the resolution that the council passed here this last year. Of course, that means you just got to sit down and read it, right? And, the whole section 6 on it is called bylaws. And there's some basic things that said it, that's why I said to Kelly, I said, I've never seen any bylaws of the planning commission. Do we have bylaws? And he said, well, no, but we're working to get around on it. So, the council was, quick to, develop a code of conduct because they had some reasons and concerns to do that. And they say that the bylaws should contain certain things like, meeting requirements, quorum requirements, procedures for electing officers, qualifications, most of the answering one question. I mean, we know what they are. I mean, just by what we've been doing. I mean, we say 4 is a quorum, right? Simply because there's 7 on the commission, but we don't have any bylaws. And Jerry, I'm willing to, if you want to sit down, take a few seconds and work on it, to put together something that then we could just ship to council. I mean, some council approves, but I'm willing to volunteer to, if we're supposed to have bylaws, let's get them. It sure doesn't seem to me to be a strenuous task, unless I'm missing something, Kelly, in terms of that, but I volunteer to help out.
I mean, if you want to volunteer to write something up, I'll take your assistance. It's like I said, it's something we would love to get to. It's just not the code changes and the current land use are definitely the priorities. But if you and Jerry want to take a shot at it, or if you want to take a shot and get Jerry's input, I'll take whatever you give me and send it over to Jeff, and then him and Jordan can bring it to the council as is, or they can refine it if they want.
Yeah, I mean, that can work with something. And also, I believe plagiarism is the best form of flattery. So, if there is something that's been written up, for anything and you can just ship this way, glad to make some changes. But, to write a sentence and say, a quorum is 4 or more done. Procedure for electing officers. Well, 1st of January, we take nominations based on a majority vote. We collect officers. I mean, it's that hard, for some of it. So it's just kind of getting it written down, Jerry. We're supposed to have it. It doesn't need to be a long, involved document. I'm thinking 1 page at the very most, double spaced.
How about this? If you want to write something up, we could you could send it to Jerry and we could take a look, and then we could bring it to a future commission meeting to get everybody's kind of buy off or input on it. And then after that, once you guys make a decision on it as a group, then I would be happy to forward it over to the city manager so he could get it before council. Yeah.
The only one I would maybe ask for some quick input on it. I know, and Rich, you on council, you may know this, you may not, but this says meeting attendance requirements. If a person misses so many meetings, that's what I think that's addressing. I know that Kelly, says the meeting, someone's excused or not excused. Usually, if you talk in advance and it's excused. So, but I know the council actually did replace a counselor not too long ago. I think Jan might be aware of that, for lack of attendance. So if the council, for example, does have something that they are already using as a guideline for attendance, which I see 2 things. One is a number of unexcused absences, but then the total number of absences might be something to consider, because even if for some reason they're excused, if a person's gone 8 out of 12 meetings and they're all excused, is that still okay? So if there is something in that area that council has that you could just ship to me, again, I mean, I'm up for being consistent and just quickly getting something written down.
She was actually elected, but didn't attend. She just came once and never came back.
Well, that was probably pretty simple. Go ahead, Rich.
I don't know the answer to those numbers for you, but I will, I'll ask and see what we can get.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jerry, I want you and I kind of work on that, and maybe we can have something that we can throw out maybe at the next meeting for people to talk about. Just trying to, go by the rules. If it's written down, let's write it down, as opposed to have it being kind of something we kind of agree to, but it really isn't agreed to.
True.
Hey, Don, I just Googled planning commission bylaws. You got a 2-page example from Oregon City, Tigard, and Eugene on the front page of Google. Very simple. Plagiarism is the best friend.
Like I said, plagiarism is the best form of flattery. Thanks, Chris.
I just want to add one more thing. I think I kind of feel odd about actually writing them anyways. So I'm glad you're volunteering to do that, because I kind of think it would be kind of odd for staff to write the rules of conduct or whatever for you guys when you guys really work with city council in that regard. So I think it's best if it comes from the commission is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
We will tackle it. Thanks for bringing it up, Don, and thank you for volunteering. And you already have a research assistant in Chris, and so.
I'll help you, Don. Just call me.
Commissioner Lee has her hand raised, Chairman.
Okay, yes, Commissioner Lee.
I just wondered if the conduct portion was included in the bylaws, or is that a separate document?
Well, I don't know the answer to that since we don't have the bylaws.
I would say it wouldn't be included. It's a separate, the resolution's a council section. The section on member conduct is part of a more global code of conduct. The council is passed for all boards and commissions. And so if we say anything in the bylaws, it would be by reference, I would think.
Okay. Well, the one little piece of business that we have tonight is to appoint somebody from the Planning Commission to serve on the interview panel with City Council. They have already selected their team of interviewers, and we need to have one representative. And there's 4 of us that are up for, our terms are ending the end of this year. And that would be myself, Don, Ron, I think, right, Ron? And Hollis. So there's 4 of us. And as the memo stated that, of course, obviously, whoever they're interviewing can't be on the interview committee. My suggestion is rather than have different people coming in and out of the interview thing, if we just pick one person, and as Don said, I think before we went on air, that there's only 3 choices, but one person that would serve on that committee. I do not know when the interviewing will take place. The application window is closing in a week. So it'll be sometime, I'm assuming, in November, but I don't know that anybody knows any dates. So
Emily, do you know a date on that yet? Because it's going to be Emily and Jeff kind of coordinating that with.
No, but I know that we need council to approve it in December, probably in the beginning of December. So I suspect that the interviews will be scheduled in November, probably before Thanksgiving would be my guess.
and they historically have often happened like the same evening of a city council meeting, just earlier. I mean, doesn't have to be that way, but I'm just, because it'll either be Steve. Oh, I was gonna say Stephen got away. No, his camera's off. It would either be Commissioner Hook, Commissioner Lee, or Commissioner Mayton. Do either of you 3 have an interest in serving on that interview committee? I see that hand from Commissioner Mayton. Does anybody have any issues with him being on that committee? It's not a.
Nope, I don't.
Okay. All right. We will let you be our representative, Chris. And
Do you want to take a motion on it?
that would probably make it really good and official.
Then we'd have something in the minutes. Is the only reason why I'm thinking that.
I
All
move
right.
the commission representative be Chris. They do.
Need a second.
Oh, second.
Okay, we had a tie there. I'm going to say I heard Stephen first, so that motion was made by Don, seconded by Commissioner Hook, that Chris Mayton would be the commission's representative on the interview committee for the new commissioners. All in favor, say aye with your thumbs. I think it's two. Okay, I heard your aye, Commissioner Hook. Okay, just for your own information, after our meeting last month, and then a discussion that Don and I had, I did send a memo to City Council that they read last week, suggesting, or actually it was kind of two things. I was pointing out the issue of the theoretical possibility that there could be 4 brand new commissioners on the commission at a given time this January. In theory, that could happen. And it was following our discussion, and I had forgotten that that there was actually something in the minutes. And Councilor Sheldon, you may want to take this back to the council, because in our minutes, I listened to your discussion of it, and one of the counselors asked, well, was this a majority viewpoint and so forth? And when I wrote that, I had forgotten that we had actually talked about it to a greater degree than we had. But in our minutes for our last meeting is the statement that all commissioners agreed with modifying the terms so that less turnover is possible. So it was not just a majority, it was unanimous of those that were there. Just for the record, they decided to stay with the 4-3 rotation, which is their prerogative. I just wanted to let
Jerry?
you know that. Yes.
Actually, for now, we just tabled it. We're just not changing it right now. We didn't make a decision either way. We just tabled it till later. But thank you so much for that information.
Yeah, no, they tabled it. My listening to it, my takeaway was, yes, they may have tabled it, but for this cycle, that they would stick with the 4 new ones this January.
Yeah, I think that's still up for discussion, but I
Okay.
would suggest you're probably on the right track.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, the thing we suggested, Jerry, and that's why I think it was kind of important, Richard, was if they wanted to go to a more like a 2-2-2-1, they could, we have 4 coming up, so you got to do something with 4. We know that is if 3 of them or 2 were appointed for 4 years and 2 were appointed for 5 years, that would get you right off the bat on a 3-2-2 cycle. And then when you get to the 3, you can decide, in 2025, when you get to the 3, decide what to do with them. So I thought that there was 2 reasons of it. One is if you're going to do something like that, it probably needs to be disclosed in the advertisement for the ad, because otherwise they're just like the 4 years is what's in the resolution. And then I guess, Chris would maybe have to give us a legal thought, but if they decided to put 2 people in for either 3 or 5 years, and the other 2 for 4 to get started on a 2-and-2 thing, do we really need to change the resolution to appoint some people for 5 years, 5 or 3? So that's my point, is if you really want to do it, now's the time to do it, because otherwise you're going to appoint 4 people for 4 years and you're not getting visited again in 2025. So if there's a desire for this council to be in a more 2-2-2-2 rotation, I think it would be wise to appoint 2 for 4 years and 2 for a different number of years, because that gets you right off the bat off of the 4 to a 3-2-2.
Okay. I want to go to Commissioner Lee. You had your hand up and I don't want to.
Oh, sure. One thing I would mention is that I don't think the questions have been changed for many, many years. And when I was appointed, one of the counselors just was really, I can't even describe what the words were, but I got kind of raked over the coals for half an hour by one of the counselors because I may have remembered some of the questions. So I think we need to be changing the questions at least a little, because I'm sure you've all seen them before.
I'll be honest with you. I haven't.
Oh,
Because that, this idea of being more formal is really new. I've been on the commission now for 15 years, Jerry. You've been
Oh,
on
yeah.
longer. And it's usually been, are you interested in being reappointed? You just said, yep, I'm interested. Next thing you know, the council would reappoint you without even talking to you. Because it isn't a secret that frequently all we're looking for are warm bodies to fill the commission. It's not like we have 1,000 people here trying to do this. So I don't know the questions. Jerry you might have a longer corporate memory than me.
No, I don't think, I think since it was 4 years ago for me, I don't think, I have been interviewed subsequent to my initial term, but it's been not in any formal scripted interview.
Yeah, I couldn't even remember the questions when it had only been a couple months. So
Yeah.
I think it's really the answers that count anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, when I was first appointed, they told me to show up at a council meeting, which I did. I stood up there at the at the podium, and the council asked me questions, and then they voted on it. It was a different process. So,
Mhm.
and ever since then, I've never sat in an interview or anything like that.
Yeah. One thing I would say to Councillor Sheldon for when the council revisits it, one thing in listening to your discussion, the discussion was, well, and I agree that my bringing it up and Don's bringing it up is really in theory that there could be 4 new ones. But the discussion is usually, well, often there's people that want to re-up, and the general pattern is an incumbent kind of has the edge on one. But what the one possibility that they didn't consider is you have about 4 or 3 that 4 of them just say, I'm done, and you're forced into having 4 brand new ones. Because there's that possibility as well. Not just that, rather than assume that 2 or 3, maybe even 4 of the ones going off are going to want to continue. There could come a day where, for whatever reason, none of them do want to continue, and then you are bringing in a good chunk of new people in a overnight. Kelly?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I did forward the questions over to Jeff Aprati and Emily. I think there was gonna be a few modifications to them, but some of the questions, there's no way to really change them. It's kind of like, why are you interested in being a planning commissioner? So, and I mean, I think that'd be a good question to ask no matter who you're interviewing. I wrote a lot of those questions and I don't remember the majority of them either. So I do think the plan was to change a few of them around, maybe write some different scenarios and stuff, but probably at least half the questions pretty much have to stay how they're written. Because there's questions about, why do you want to be a planning commissioner? What experiences do you think you have? Something to the fact of that will help you in making decisions as a planning commissioner. And I think there's a question related to, like, can you do it on Monday evenings or something like that? So I mean, some of those questions they pretty much have to remain as written. So that's all I wanted to bring up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, stay tuned on that issue. But for now, we can expect that there'll be, or anticipate, the appointment of 4 new or different or the same commissioners come January 1.
Yeah, I guess the only last thing I would share with Rich, the reason, that I was concerned about it is just kind of what Jerry said. I think the planning commission is unique from some of the other boards and stuff that you have. That we do, we are a statutory board. We do make decisions. Some of them are decisions, others get punted to you folks. And if they don't like it, they get punted to you anyway. So I think Chris was maybe one of the newer members, and he talked about, he asked a lot of questions early on, and I think you can tell me, you say it maybe took you 6 months to a year to start to feel comfortable with everything. So I guess I see the planning commission as one. There is a value in having experienced people, at least for at least 4 or 5 other folks, because if you don't, the council will probably bear the brunt of that result as stuff gets punted to you all the time. So it's a little different, I think, the planning commission than some of the other boards and commissions.
Mhm.
Thank you for that.
Any other points of discussion before we wrap things up and go to a football game?
Chairman, I'll just add 2 seconds onto that. I want to just get my voice on the record for saying I also agree that we need to take a serious look at getting these term limits changed for these 4 applicants coming in. My belief is a 3 and a 4 works best. It'd be a one-time change, intermittent, because it would revert back to 4-year terms right after that. So it would be a temporary ride for 1. And then on the 3, to your point, Don, we don't have to wait till 24 to do that. I can volunteer to let my position go back 1 year and then reapply in 2023. So then you'd be the 1-2-2-2 cycle after this one event. Not that I'm looking to quit. I would just roll back 1 year and then reapply again. I don't have any problem with doing that. So just offer process for you, counselor, to bring it back. And it'd be a one-time done, because once it was done, everything would revert back to 4 years, and then we'd be on a 4-year cycle of 4 different commission changes. So it would work like clockwork.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll wrap up with this, that there was one comment with the 4 coming up this January. It's like, okay, if some of them are going to be shorter terms or longer terms, how do you decide? And I think Don and our discussion was just flip a coin. We'd be okay with that, just kind of a randomly pick. And they do have, our positions do have numbers. I didn't know that they always did, but they do now. And you could just flip a coin and say position 2 and 5 that are up, they're going to be 2-year terms and whatever. Ron.
Well, I knew mine was position 1 because Tracy Brown told me that's why I sat in that first chair all the time to turn the lights on, because that's always position 1. And then on position 2. And when you get to you, I don't know what yours is, but because I said, well, can we soon move around in chairs? And he says, no, you got to stay there. You're position 1. You can't go sit over where Chris is.
Go ahead, Ron.
I just wanted to tag along and echo what Commissioner Maiden brought up in terms of, if I were to come back or whatever, in terms of shortening it to get in the right sync, whatever it takes, so that we don't have this bunching up like we have. So I think it's a great idea, Chris, and we could do it. I think that's what Don was bringing up. All of us is now's the time to do it in January, is to make the offsetting years so that we roll forward and we don't have to encounter this again, at least for some time. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I thank you for being here, Rich, and because to have a set of ears that we don't have to repeat ourselves. I appreciate that.
Jerry, what meeting is that the minutes where you guys did it unanimously? Do you remember the month?
Yep, it's September 27 of this year. Just our meeting last month.
Awesome, thank you.
It's on page 2, point number 6. Last sentence. Okay, if there's nothing else, we will take a motion to head home or to another room, or
I move we adjourn.
I second it.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn at 7:12. All in favor, thumbs up.
Aye.
And aye for Commissioner Hook. Very good. We'll be done. And just a reminder that we are meeting November 8th. So we've got a kind of a short cycle to the next meeting. And there will be lots of stuff forthcoming on that.
One thing on that, I will send you the third. We got one more letter from the applicant today, and I'll send that tomorrow. It's only 3 pages. It's very short.
Oh. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you giving us your time tonight.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night.